You know, when I first saw that innocuous white envelope sitting on the kitchen counter, I didn't give it much thought. I was trying to be that laid back parent who isn't breathing down their kid's neck all the time. So I left it there for Ruby, my daughter, to open herself. Ruby, who was not just my daughter, but also a miracle in secondhand jeans, had worked so hard for her scholarship. It was her ticket to a future she had dreamt about. I remember smiling at her and saying, "Hey, you got some mail." She glanced at it, and I saw her go quiet. The envelope was thin, not the kind that shouts out good news. It looked more like one of those annoying forms you have to fill out, or a reminder about insurance. Ruby didn't say anything, just picked it up and walked down the hall to her room. I went back to the kitchen, stirring the pot of pasta I was making for dinner. I can't even remember what kind it was because that's when I heard her call me. Her voice was different, sharp, like something had broken inside her. I turned off the stove and walked down the hallway where her door was slightly open. Ruby was sitting on her bed, holding the letter like it was a live wire. She didn't speak, just handed it over to me. I had to read it twice. "We acknowledge your decision to decline the scholarship. Your award has been given to the next qualifying candidate." I laughed, but it wasn't a laugh of amusement. It was one of disbelief, the kind that happens when your mind can't grasp what it's processing. I looked at Ruby, asking without words if she had declined it. She shook her head, her fists clenched so hard it looked painful. Her eyes were brimming with tears. "No," she barely whispered. "Why would I do that?" Ruby had been so ecstatic when she got the acceptance. She'd even baked brownies as a thank you, despite the distance to the admissions committee. She'd framed the acceptance email like it was a precious artifact. Declining that scholarship would be like tearing up a winning lottery ticket. I grabbed my phone and dialed the number on the letter without any small talk. While I was on hold with the financial aid office listening to some endless violin music, Ruby sat beside me, stunned. Her tears had stopped, but disbelief had taken their place. Finally, someone picked up. "This is Megan. How can I assist you?" I didn't waste any time. I explained we got a letter saying Ruby turned down her scholarship, but that was a mistake. She never did that. Megan asked for Ruby's student ID number, and I gave it to her, feeling a sense of betrayal with each tap of the keyboard on the other end. Megan confirmed they had received a formal email from Ruby's registered address that previous week. "The withdrawal has already been processed," she said. "The scholarship's been awarded to another student." My throat went dry. "I'm sorry. What?" Megan continued, saying the email came from the address they had on file, sent on Monday night at 7:47 p.m. Ruby turned to me, her face a mix of shock and confusion. I asked Megan to read the email address back to me. She did. Ruby's face went pale. "That's my email," she said, her voice trembling. "But I didn't send anything." I asked Megan if she could send me a copy of that email. She said they could forward the message to the same address it came from. "Perfect," I replied, knowing full well how absurd that was. They were going to send a fraudulent email to the account it supposedly came from, where the real owner, Ruby, never saw it. Then Megan added something that made my blood boil. "Sometimes students change their minds. If she had second thoughts, we can't just undo it now, especially after it's been reassigned." But Ruby didn't withdraw. I never thought I'd be sitting here talking to a camera about something like this. But here we are. Life has a funny way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. You know, when you're a parent, your biggest hope is for your kids to have opportunities, to see them succeed and be happy. That's all I ever wanted for Ruby. She's a brilliant girl, always has been, so when we found out she got that scholarship, it felt like everything we'd been working towards was finally falling into place. It wasn't just a scholarship. It was the only plan we had. We'd been scraping by on part-time contracts, living on faith more than anything else. This was supposed to be her ticket, her chance to shine. And then, just like that, it was gone. I called them, hoping for some mistake, some error to be corrected. But Megan, the woman on the phone, was all business. I could practically hear the smile in her voice as she told me that once reassigned, these things were rarely reversible. I remember asking who got it, but of course they couldn't tell me. When I hung up, I looked at Ruby. She didn't cry, not right away. She just sat there, staring at the wall as if waiting for it to blink first. Then she said something that broke me inside. She said she almost believed it was real, but of course it was too good to be true. Hearing her say that like she'd known all along that the world would snatch it back, shattered something in me. I put my arm around her and told her we'd find a way, but even as I said it, my voice shook. I had no idea how we were going to manage. Somewhere out there, someone had stolen this from her using her identity. The email that was supposed to explain it all hadn't arrived yet, but I dreaded its arrival. My gut was already whispering that something was terribly, deliberately wrong and someone was behind it. I stood in our living room, feeling a rage I couldn't quite articulate. It wasn't just that someone had stolen Ruby's scholarship. It was how they did it. The coldness of pretending to be her, typing out a withdrawal message like it was nothing, and then hitting send, watching her future collapse. They did it from her own account, her email, her identity. Ruby kept checking her inbox every few minutes, waiting for that screenshot. I was pacing, biting at a cuticle until it bled, too anxious to care. We didn't talk much. What could we say? We were clinging to the hope that it was all a mistake, a glitch, something dumb and technical that could be fixed. But in the back of my mind, the pieces were already forming a picture, and it wasn't a glitch. It was forming her Vivian. I wasn't ready to go there yet. So I did what moms do when they're losing control. I tried to explain it to myself. Growing up, I was 2 years ahead of my sister, just close enough for constant comparison. Vivian was the golden child. Our parents weren't villains, but there were always 2 sets of rules. If I forgot to take out the trash, I was lazy. If she forgot, she must have been distracted. If she cried, she was sensitive and needed comfort. If I cried, I was dramatic. And if we fought, well, I should know better. She was younger, after all. Protesting only made things worse, so I learned to stop. Let her have the last cookie, the benefit of the doubt, the spotlight. I built my life outside of that favoritism. We both grew up, had daughters around the same time, and for a while I believed things were different. Ruby and Chloe were close, genuinely close. They went to the same school, joined the same programs, took goofy photos in matching pajamas. We raised them side by side, lived in the same town, shared recipes, holiday tables. Our parents doted on them both, or almost both. It was subtle, like everything else. Ruby was praised for her kindness, Chloe for her spark. Ruby was responsible, Chloe a natural leader. Ruby did the dishes after family dinners. Chloe made everyone laugh and forgot the dishes, and somehow that was just as valuable. When Chloe messed up, it was stress or teenage hormones. When Ruby cried after a bad day, she needed to toughen up. I remember the moment like it was yesterday, sitting there with Ruby, feeling everything shift in an instant. They were just kids, really, Ruby and Chloe. They had the kind of friendship you read about in books, the kind where everything was shared, from sleepovers to secrets, from homework to hopes. Ruby would always help Chloe with her assignments, and when it came to that scholarship, they both dove in together. It was one of those crazy competitive national programs. Thousands of applicants, only a few chosen. But they were determined, spurring each other on like sisters. When the acceptance came through for Ruby, I remember the rush of emotions I felt, screaming, crying, and then that cold panic. The realization hit me like a wave. She might actually be leaving. Was I ready for that? But Ruby, she just sat there, so quiet, and her first thought was Chloe. But what about Chloe? She asked me, and I told her what I believed was the truth. Chloe would be okay. This was Ruby's moment. Then, a few days later, Chloe got her letter, waitlisted. "You're first in line if someone drops out," it said, which felt like a polite way of saying, don't get your hopes up. Ruby was torn, didn't want to celebrate, felt like she was rubbing it in. I reassured her, told her she earned it, and Chloe was proud of her, and it seemed like she was. Chloe came to Ruby's graduation party. It was just a small gathering at our home. Nothing extravagant. Chloe hugged Ruby, told her she was happy for her. "At least one of us made it," she said. I thought that would be it, that we'd all move forward. I didn't realize that night would be the beginning of the end. The ping of an incoming email jolted me back to reality. Ruby opened it. It was a forwarded message, a scholarship withdrawal, time-stamped Monday, 7:48 p.m. We both just stared at the screen. Ruby blinked, processing. It was the night of the party. We looked at the calendar, then at the clock on the screen. Silence stretched between us. Ruby's eyes flickered with realization. Her hands trembled. "It was her," she whispered. "It was Chloe." My heart sank like a stone. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I feared the answer. Ruby looked at me, and it was like she was seeing everything for the first time. She asked to borrow my phone, said hers was dead, and she needed to call her boyfriend. I unlocked it for her, not thinking much of it in the moment. She was gone for about 10 minutes. We sat there in that thick, heavy quiet, both of us staring at the floor as if it might offer some solution. I remembered that night vividly, watching them laugh, Ruby doing Chloe's makeup, lending her clothes, offering her the good phone for better photos. Ruby had given her friendship, trust, and her phone. Chloe didn't stab her in the back. She borrowed the knife. The silence that follows betrayal is a peculiar kind. Not peaceful, but charged with tension. Our house felt like that the night Ruby's realization hit home. She curled up on the couch, eyes fixed on some distant point as if her life was replaying in front of her. I sat across, holding the email in my hands, the email supposedly sent from Ruby's phone while Chloe was borrowing it. Everything lined up, the timing, the tone, except for one undeniable fact. Ruby hadn't written it. She finally broke the silence, her voice cracking under the weight of resignation. "We'll never be able to prove it," she said. "She sent it from my phone. There's no chance." I looked at her, seeing the defeat in her voice, her slumped shoulders, and something inside me broke. I decided then and there that we would find a way. I didn't tell Ruby I was going to confront my sister, Vivian. It wasn't necessary for her to know, not yet. I just said I had to run some errands and grabbed the car keys, trying to act like it was any other day. But it wasn't. I was driving across town to look my sister in the eye and ask her if she'd really help destroy my daughter's future. During the drive, I rehearsed what I would say. I wanted to keep it factual, no accusations. I planned to ask questions, to approach it calmly. I never thought I'd be in this position, speaking into a camera, sharing my story with the world. But here I am, hoping that by talking about it, someone else might feel less alone. It all started with a smile, a simple gesture that seemed so innocent, yet it was the beginning of a nightmare. I remember standing there outside her door, trying to hold on to the hope that maybe I was wrong, that maybe nothing had happened. But the moment she opened the door, her smile told me everything I needed to know. It was as if nothing had happened, as if everything was perfectly normal. I felt all my restraint slip away as I stepped into her house. I didn't sit down. I stood there in her kitchen, feeling like I was about to collect on a debt that had been ignored for far too long. I held up my phone, showing her the email that had come from Ruby's account at 7:48 p.m. It was the same night as her graduation party, the same time Chloe had borrowed Ruby's phone. I watched as she glanced down at the screen, a faint smile playing on her lips. She asked if I was sure it wasn't just Ruby. That was the moment it hit me. She wasn't confused or surprised. She was stalling, trying to buy time. I pointed out how her daughter had helped mine with her college essays, lent her clothes, even her phone. And now, Ruby's scholarship was gone. She just shrugged as if it was nothing. That shrug felt like a punch to the gut. I realized then that when her daughter was supposedly helping mine, it wasn't really help at all. It was a setup from the start. She already knew they were in competition long before Chloe even figured it out. It was hard to believe. I was standing there, blinking in disbelief, trying to process it all. She kept mentioning how guilty she felt that Chloe didn't get into college, but why would she feel guilty unless she had done something wrong? It was like I was watching her through a layer of glass, trapped in a dream where nothing made sense, and the ground could drop away at any moment. I asked what she was trying to say, but she just leaned back against the counter saying that the winner is the one who gets the last word. That was it. The moment I knew. She hadn't just let it happen, she had actively helped. If Chloe was clever enough to send that email without getting caught, then Vivian was sharp enough to cover her tracks. But there was one thing even Vivian hadn't anticipated. I was a mom, and we don't forget anything. It was while I was washing my hands that the realization came. Our backyard security camera, motion activated with full audio. Chloe had stepped outside during the party, claiming she needed a quiet spot to call her boyfriend. She hadn't gone far with Ruby's phone, just out onto the patio, just long enough to do what she needed to do. I opened the camera app, and there she was, Chloe, walking out the back door with a phone in her hand. It was 7:46 p.m. You couldn't see clearly that it was Ruby's phone, not in the video, but one thing was obvious. It wasn't Chloe's. It was a different make, the wrong case. Definitely not the one she always carried. She stared at the screen for a bit, tapped a few times, then made a call at 7:50 p.m. She walked in a slow circle, laughed, said something like, "Yeah, I'll let you know," and then strolled back inside. The phone log on Ruby's phone confirmed it. One outgoing call to Chloe's boyfriend made moments after the email had been sent. She had sent the email and followed it up with the call, one action to conceal the other. It wasn't quite a smoking gun, but it was close enough to load one. I showed everything to Ruby. The video, the timestamp, the phone log. She sat there, motionless, her hands folded in her lap. She murmured that it wouldn't matter, that they'd just say she let Chloe send it or that she'd changed her mind and was now trying to blame her. And she was right. That's exactly what they'd say. So I didn't argue. I turned to the kitchen table and opened my laptop. When Ruby asked what I was doing, I told her I was filing a complaint with the university. And after that, I was filing a police report. Impersonation, fraud, academic sabotage. I didn't care what they called it. It was theft. They didn't just take her phone, they stole her future. I uploaded the footage, attached screenshots, filled in the timeline, and then picked up my phone to call the local police department's non-emergency line. I reported impersonation and digital fraud. When they asked who the victim was, I told them it was my daughter. She's 17, and she didn't just lose a scholarship, she was targeted. I didn't cry that night. Ruby went to bed early, and I tucked her in like she was 5 again, kissed her forehead, and told her it wasn't over. Then I sat in the kitchen with a cup of coffee I didn't drink, just trying to process everything that had happened. I remember sitting at the computer, watching the status bar on the university portal spin endlessly. It felt like an eternity, and I whispered to myself, "We've done everything we could. It's out of our hands now." But the truth is, I wasn't just passively waiting, I was actively bracing myself for the inevitable. You'd think after everything, after all the betrayals, I'd be immune to it by now, that I'd have some kind of emotional callus. Watching my daughter's scholarship slip away, pilfered slowly by those we once trusted, was a fresh cut. But here's the thing about damage. It never hits the same spot twice. There's always a new crack waiting to form, and the worst of it was still ahead, though I had no idea at the time. I thought the damage was already done when I filed the reports. 3 days later, my phone rang. No hello, no small talk, just straight to the point. "You sent the police to my house," she said, her voice sharp and unwavering. It wasn't the voice of someone who's hurt or scared. It was controlled anger, the kind that people reserve for minor inconveniences like a scratched car or a parking ticket, not for something as serious as fraud. She wasn't interested in hearing how I tried to reach out to her first. She wasn't after the truth. She wanted to be outraged. "Chloe's been crying. You scared Mom. She thought someone had died. And you didn't even have the decency to warn us. You just made us a public spectacle." I leaned against the kitchen counter, staring at the cracked tile mirroring our conversation. I needed to end it. "I have to go," I said, and hung up before she could respond. I stood there, holding the phone, hoping for something, anything that would give this mess some meaning. I whispered to myself, Mom and Dad were there. Ruby was in the next room, refreshing her inbox, waiting for the university's reply that never seemed to come. She looked up and asked, "What?" "Nothing," I lied. "Get your shoes." We were going to visit her grandparents. I told myself they would listen if we approached calmly. Ruby believed it too. We brought pancakes, thinking maybe they'd hear us out, that we could gently walk them through everything. Maybe they'd be shocked, maybe they'd apologize. They greeted us as if it were any typical morning with hugs and small talk. My mom noticed Ruby's new shoes. My dad offered us orange juice. We sat at the kitchen table and I pulled out the folder. "Before we say anything else, we need you to look at this." They did, with an unsettling calm. They scanned the email, the timestamp, the security footage of Chloe with Ruby's phone, the call log, every piece of evidence laid bare. Ruby sat beside me, silent but tense. My mother finally spoke, addressing Ruby, not me. "She's just a child." That's when I realized something was wrong. "She's 17, I said, "and she committed fraud." My father gently set down the papers. "She made a mistake, maybe a poor decision, but she's a good kid." I blinked, trying to process this. "You believe she did it?" They exchanged a glance, then turned back to me. "We thought you might come," my mother said. "We've talked about it, all of us." Her words cut through me like shards of glass. "After you told her what you found, we couldn't do anything." I was frozen, my jaw clenched so tight it clicked. "You knew and did nothing," my father quickly added. "We just agreed." "Agreed to what?" I demanded. My mother didn't waver. "That Chloe needed it more." Ruby stood up, her hands trembling. "You helped her take it from me." "No one took anything," my mother snapped, her voice rising for the first time. "It stayed in the family." That's when I stood up too. "It didn't stay in the family, it was stolen." My father tried to explain. "She was devastated. We knew you'd take it badly, so we didn't say anything." "She's not as strong as Ruby," my mother added, as if that justified it. "We thought Ruby would understand." Ruby made a small, bitter sound, like laughter without any joy. "So, you just let her lie?" My father sighed. "We didn't want this to get ugly. You involved the police. What did you expect?" I remember the exact moment when everything changed. It's like a switch flipped inside me, and I knew I couldn't go back. We were sitting there, my mom and I, in the middle of what should have been a normal evening, but there was nothing normal about it. She looked at me and said, "You already knew." It was as if she had peeled back a layer of my reality, revealing something raw and unsettling. I didn't even finish my pancakes that night. I just got up and left. I blocked their numbers, every single one of them. No dramatic speeches, no text goodbyes. I just pressed a button and watched as my phone went silent. Ruby, my sister, didn't say a word for hours. She just sat there, quiet, until she finally opened the family group chat on her phone. She scrolled through message after message until she found the last one from our dad. It was some meme about family loyalty, ironic, right? Then she did something I didn't expect. She uploaded 4 files. There was a screenshot of a withdrawal email, another of a call log, a still frame from a security video, and a short message. Chloe sent the email from my phone. Ruby didn't wait for anyone to respond. We both knew there wouldn't be one. The silence that followed was deafening. The university still hadn't gotten back to her. She had been called in twice for follow-up clarification, whatever that meant. The start of term was 5 days away. And we had nothing. No scholarship, no financial aid, no backup plan. It's not even about the money anymore, Ruby said to me one night. It's the fact that they looked at me and decided I wasn't worthy. I didn't know what to say because she wasn't wrong. How do you respond to something like that? 2 days before orientation, I got a message. It was quiet, almost like a whisper from a life I had left behind. It was from a cousin I hadn't spoken to since a funeral. I saw what Ruby posted. I forwarded it to someone. I hope that's okay. It was more than okay. It was the only thing we had left. The following afternoon, we got a call. It was from the Hope Bridge Foundation. They had reviewed Ruby's story and wanted to fully cover her tuition, effective immediately. I didn't cry, not at first. It wasn't until I hung up that the tears came. I turned and saw Ruby curled up on the couch, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. "You're in," I whispered. She looked at me like I had spoken in another language. The next morning, she packed her bag and stood by the door. "I really thought they broke me," she said. I looked at her, exhausted but unbroken, steady and strong. "Then look at yourself now," I told her. The investigation moved quickly after that. Within weeks, Chloe was formally charged with computer misuse, identity theft, and academic misconduct. The university expelled her and voided the scholarship pending final outcomes, but it was effectively done. She was barred from receiving any future academic funding. Her name was added to a list no parent ever wants to see. And then came the twist no one saw coming. During her questioning, Chloe cracked. She confessed it hadn't been her idea. It was her mother's, Vivian. Vivian, who once claimed she'd do anything for her daughter. Apparently she wasn't lying. She was found guilty as well, sentenced to community service, slapped with a heavy fine, and placed on 1 year of probation. In court, she cried, talked about the damage to her reputation. The reputation she chose to protect instead of the truth. As for Chloe, she was assigned to clean the downtown bus terminal every Saturday. Ruby and I saw her there once. She never looked up. We walked right past her. Ruby's original scholarship was never reinstated, but in the end, she received something even better. Now she's on campus, not hiding, not shrinking. She tutors 2 evenings a week, joined the debate team, and already received an invitation to a summer research project. Sometimes when I watch her across the kitchen table, I catch glimpses of something returning, like a match just beginning to light. Confidence, joy, strength. She still doesn't bring up her aunt or grandparents, and I don't press, no contact completely. I never sent a goodbye. I blocked every one of them. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. They thought they could erase her future. Turns out all they did was write the ending to their own story. So you tell me, did I go too far or not far enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to hit subscribe.